Hi, welcome back from that little break just for timing purposes with YouTube. Um, the courses, I wanted to talk about the fact it's modular in format. Modular means that, everything in that section is self-contained, just like a modular home or modular construction, and, like a big building can actually be modular construction, where, a part of it has everything that's already in it. It may have, with this, it already has the lesson, already has any lectures, already has any quizzes. Everything is there, discussion boards, and so that module is its own little lesson, its own chapter, its own unit, and so those sometimes get moved around. The thing also is that with logic, we do a couple different approaches to logic. We do categorical logic, we do truth functional logic, we do sort of a logic where we go through the process, and each one of these is its own. We do inductive, we do informal fallacies, and each one of these units, while oftentimes they build upon each other, and some of the information we learn earlier is useful and something we may apply later, it's oftentimes the case that um, it's oftentimes the case that we don't necessarily, we don't necessarily, if you're, have, well, let me say it this way. Just because you're having a difficult time, say, for example, if you hate Venn diagrams, or you hate informal fallacies, or you just hate things, well, don't worry, because we will be switching topics. We will moving on to the next module. We will be moving on to the next topic. And oftentimes that's very different. And so don't let your frustration on week 4 be indicative of the frustration you will be feeling on week 6. It may be a very different topic. As a matter of fact, some people say informal fallacies are one of the things they struggle with most. Some people say Venn diagrams are one of the things they struggle with most. A lot of people say that one. But the case is that, if you're having trouble with that, don't worry, we're going to move on to truth tables. And truth tables, by and large, most people, while they might get frustrated during the first couple days of it, they are, they're okay with it after that. Now, the other thing about this in the modular format is that we have 10 modules for this set course, which is 8 weeks in length. But in order to get the final project done, we really kind of need to get them all done in 7 weeks. And so the first module is due Monday at noon, but it's actually the first 2 modules are due Monday at noon. And the reason why I did 2 of those is because during a regular semester, both those modules would have been 1 week in length during a regular semester. So because we're going at twice the pace, you'll have 2 of those due. You can work on them independent of each other. You can work on both at the same time. I would recommend you do Module 1, then Module 2, partially because it makes more sense that way, but second of all, because a couple times later when we have 2 modules during the same week, they do actually piggyback. There's I'd have to look here, but it would be, I believe, like week 5 is modules, I think, would be modules 7 and 8. I believe modules, I may be wrong about those numbers, but the first module is actually a very short module about how to translate things into symbolic format. And really, that one only takes probably a couple days. The other one's actually a little bit more lengthy. But the case is that we that does build upon the other one, so that when you really have to do the one before the other one. Otherwise, it just won't make sense. But the first one is so important to learn that information before you try to do the second part of the information, that I have it as a test and everything independent of itself to try to get you to accomplish that before we move on to the second part. Now, with that said, week 1 has both of these. You need to complete both of them. During a regular semester, they would be it. But, like, for example, the first one is just sort of, an introduction to the course and the study of philosophy. Second one is just sort of an introduction more to logic specifically. And so they're both very simple lessons, very simple setup. And so don't let that frustrate you too much. Or I don't want to say frustrate. Don't let that Don't let the fact you have two of those go, oh my goodness, I have two of these huge modules. No, these are both fairly simple modules. But then as we go along, say week 3, where we're doing module 5, that module is actually a fairly more intense module, and you will need to take more time with it. Don't think it will be as simple. So when you have two of them, they're both in some ways very simple or fairly quick modules, whereas the weeks where you only have one, those modules will take more time. You probably need to take more time doing problems and studying for it. Sorry about that. Now, as far as the modules go, as far as other things in there, working ahead. Sometimes, if you're working, because one module may seem very simple to you, for other people it may not, but some people might say, oh, this isn't really that difficult, I don't have a hard time with Venn diagrams. If you can get it done and start the next module, you are free to do it. All the modules are open right up front. So if you can work ahead, I encourage you to work ahead. I would say, you work ahead, get to the next module, and go ahead and start the next one, because the next one may end up being more difficult or take you more time. And at the end of the day, if you want an extension, I might be willing to give you an extra day to work on something, but the problem is that then cuts into the module that's next, and you'll need an extension for it. So I would recommend, if you can work ahead, work ahead. If you know something's coming up, try to be working ahead. But, don't expect everything to take the same amount of time. Don't expect everything to be the same amount of equal difficult. Now, as far as other things go, each module has an exam. The exam, basically, in a lot of ways, is a continuation. You have homework in the back of the book. You have problems throughout. You get examples. It'll be basically asking you to do some of those types of problems and work, or to be able to apply it in a way that can be actually applied in a test format. Because of that, I recommend that you do all the work in the textbook. Now, the work in the textbook is, in some ways, that's optional. I wouldn't say it's optional. It's saying you do have to. There is a lesson certification. And that's an on your honor. Did you do the work? Did you do all the problems, etc.? Now, if you didn't do every problem, you can go ahead and say, yeah, I did all the problems. You might put a note in there saying, like, I did, 90% of it. I was comfortable. I moved on. But, that's just be honest in your answer. But that's basically, a chance for you just to certify, yes, I did it, and gives you some credit for working through the work. But then the exam is sort of the culmination of that. If you can do all that work and you can do it successfully and you can do it well, you should have no problem with the exam. If you don't do well in the exam, then it's probably an indication you didn't do all the work and you didn't do it to the fullest ability. And then the other thing is there's always a discussion board. The discussion board usually has some question about the topic. You don't have to spend an excessive amount of time. To a certain degree, that's just a chance for you to interact with your peers, as well as a chance, maybe I can see a little bit about where some of your frustrations lie, where your difficulties are, see how you're understanding the concepts, and it's a chance to make that part of the class. So every discussion board has the discussion board, every module has a lesson certification, and every module has an exam. And that's even if there are 2 during the week, you still have all of those. Finally, there is the scavenger hunt. I want you to look at that folder. I am considering making a minor change in that, but the thing I want to tell you is you should start working on that a little bit each week now. If you try to do that entire scavenger hunt during the last week, you will want to do bad things to yourself, because it will be very difficult. Because it is a very big project. It's a matter of finding examples of fallacies and argument types and everything throughout the year, or throughout that you've been studying throughout all semester or all term, that you're going to have to be able to find in a matter of a few days. And so don't just put that off the last minute. I want you to be working on that constantly. I'm thinking about making a minor tweak to that, which will make it easier, and I think that makes sense for the summer semester. I think it'll be equally pedagogically beneficial, but it will be a little bit easier, a little bit more doable. And I will probably, if I do that, I will make that announcement before the end of this week. If I don't make the announcement, Tough. I guess I decided not to do it. Finally, I wanted to make a note that this course, some of the material, was done by a former professor here at Lincoln Land named Marty Morris. Marty was a longtime adjunct philosophy professor here, and he really enjoyed teaching logic and had developed the logic course. And it would have been a little, probably almost, well, it would have been 2 years ago that he ended up getting sick. He had gotten cancer. It wasn't 2 years, he died. But he got cancer very, in the fall, about 3 years ago. And he got diagnosed, and he died the following summer. And because of that, he had been teaching these classes for a long time, and they came to me kind of, last minute and said, "Can you take it over?" And I said, "Sure, that's fine." But because I had not done this before, they gave me a lot of his material. And I was able to adapt some of it, and some of it I've left very similar. But what you'll find is you'll find his name throughout. Sometimes you'll find a video with him or a discussion with him. They're not all over the place, but there are a few in there. I've added a lot of my own videos. But the case is that I would just always like to take a chance to say thank you, because a lot of this course does depend upon him. And the thing you'll notice the most that you'll know is his is if you see little jokes or cartoons, those are usually things Marty did. That's just not me. I wouldn't say I lack a complete sense of humor or anything, but but he was very interested in that thing, and he would take a lot of time and add humor and jokes throughout the semester. And so if you see those things, those are his. And it's just a little story about that. When Marty got sick, apparently, a lot of times people, when they get cancer, people begin to treat them differently. And so somebody got him a shirt that says, "I'm not dead yet." And kind of a typical feeling a lot of people with cancer have is they feel like everybody's kind of treating them as if they're already died, and, already mourning for them, and, it's kind of not really being fully honest with them and everything else. And so he got a shirt that said, "I'm not dead yet." And after he died, they decided they would go ahead and put that shirt on him because it was part of his sense of humor, and then just crossed out the word "not." And so I find that very humorous, although I also find it pretty funny that his family and friends would have been gung-ho about doing that. And so that's sort of him, and so when you see the humor, that's a lot of his, and I just kind of want to make note of that and offer a thank you for his service. If you have any questions throughout the semester, make sure to ask them. That's what I'm here for. Good luck.